So this is definitely an elusive area for a lot of people. I'm certainly no expert. Mixbuss. Some people would not even think to put stuff on their Mixbuss.
Yeah, it's also a it comes from the past as well. Mixbus compressors and Mixbus compression, the two bus also called oftentimes. It's not to underestimate. You can create. You can take a lot of control if you do it right, and it can help you. It can help you. It can help you in many ways. If you want to play stems, if you want to play a track out, if you want. Sometimes what you would do in mastering, those decisions you can take to the Mixbus. If you're like, oh, all my sounds are harsh around in a certain area, you would have to go into each. In my case, it would be a little bit. It would be crazy to go into each and every single sound and EQ it right. So you put them on a group, you have control over them, and you can just lower the EQ there. If your track is too harsh, maybe it's not. You don't want to affect kick and bass. You just want to affect your leads or your effects. And stuff like that. I think it just creates, just by grouping it, you don't have to process it. Just by grouping your elements together, you create an element of control, just by stripping down the amount of channels and putting them into groups. And back in the days, people would put compressors on there to glue it all together. And it's a little bit here as well. I mean, I have on the kick and bass, obviously we are back in SOS now. I've showed before we have kind of a Mixbus compression going on here. Same for the percussions. We have for the shots, we have as well a trident setting on a very, very high drive, just to saturate those leads more. On kick and bass, for example, the drive is almost none, just to keep the low end clean, not distorted by any chance. So yeah, the leads can, or the shots, how I call it, they can take much more of that. Again as well, I have the Waves take on this, which is Spike, Mike and Nevo. Nevo is, I think, a Neve, it might be, or Spike is an SSL thingy, or...
These are the names of the...
of the people who did it. Really, is it? You see, I would suggest this would be a Neve, because they sounded and Spiky would be...
Mike's got the low boost on it, isn't it?
Yeah, there are definitely different. They try to emulate different approaches of sounds. I could swear they modeled it like it is fashion now, after here where you would say USA is an API, Brit N is a Neve, 4KG is some SSL stuff, and Trident, so I assume that's the case. Yeah. Anyway, it's the same approach. It's a bus saturator with full drive in, and it does very, 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 very little. Both. Let's take off both the virtual compressor and the both analog style plugins. They get a very little bit lost again. They separate from each other a little bit in the stereo field, and this kind of distortion and compression, a side effect of compression, for example, as well as that you it centers the mix a little bit. It pushes everything to the middle back again, if you want. Said in layman's terms, that's one side effect of what a compressor has as well.
And I think that a point that you made early on, which is very relevant here, is to not judge what we just saw on just a solo channel. It's when you start applying these things to all the channels,
all of them in the mix. So,
and then it's, if you A/B on on off. Like it's the same way that you can A/B an expensive compressor or an expensive preamp to, you know, a less expensive one. Oh, they sound the same. Okay, no, but play me a mix where all 250 channels have been recorded through a preamp. Now you hear the difference.
Yeah.
You know?
Even on a complete mix, it's not the same. If you would say, "Oh, I prefer a real massive passive EQ on the master for mastering than the UAD plugin," you won't even necessarily hear a difference there on the full mix. It's like really individually on each and every element. Those little changes over that add up. This is the stuff that we find pleasant to our ears. So I can quickly just have a bypass all the virtual mix. Maybe you guys are able to hear a difference. Only the virtual mixes which are simulating the gluing bus compression. Let's try it out. Let's have a listen here. It's very slight, but to me it adds a little bit of depth, a very little bit. I usually have, so now again, just to complete this, all of my elements, they go into groups. Like here I would have again all of which then go again. They don't go to the output. They go to the so-called 2-bus or to the Mixbuss before this one with all of my groups goes out. So all of the individual elements go into the groups, which get slightly compressed, glued together, and this goes into one that gets again very slightly compressed together. So you basically have you would need to let's put the 2-bus here in front. And let's do this quickly. All right. Let's deactivate everything. The 2-bus, so the groups, the compressors from the groups, and the compression off the groups before they go out to the stereo output. Also, the thing is, it comes together. It adds the depth. When you take it off, it loses itself
a little bit.
Little bit. Cool. So that was the difference with all the bus compressors on and off, and this is how everything glues together and comes together. So all of this goes to this Mixbuss before it goes to the master out, and this is basically where the mixing process is, or the pre-mixing, the pre-master is done, I would say, and you can send it off to mastering.
Okay, so you would do this and then send it off.
Yeah, I would definitely do. You can even do before you go out to the Mixbuss. You can do some pre-compression if you would like to, or some tape saturation, whatever sounds good. Sometimes I would do some tape saturation, anything that doesn't make your output clip. There are no rules really. It's like sometimes you've been told don't slap anything on the master out. Well, basically, theoretically, it's not a master out, and it's just another bus. It's just a bus before the output, and you can, as long as you don't clip and as long as you don't have a limiter there or a compressor with a limiting setting, I think you should be fine, even putting something on your master out if it helps the whole mix to come together. For example, if you want to sweeten up your master out a little bit and also kind of glue it together, tape is a great way to warm up digital harsh stuff, especially when everything is done digitally in the box. It can benefit from some tape. I love the tape. I bought almost all of the Slade stuff, and I really like what it does with a certain setting on. Those are the settings.
Very little.
Yeah, but I mean, here it's nothing. It's basically just noise reduction is down, the bass alignment is slightly out. There's some wow flutter which emulates real flutter from the tape, which we don't necessarily want. Here's just some different types. I believe that FG9 or FG those are different machines. I think MPEGs or different simulations of different machines. So how would it sound with and without? I find the low end comes out. It changes the low end again. Definitely sweetens up the high end as well. It gives a bit more 3D, and as long as you're not clipping, you're fine. You're absolutely fine. So if you would decide to play your track out, if you did all of this work, you did your Mixbuss compression, but you really want to play your track out, this is some. You can do a quick mastering at home as well yourself.
And you'd be limiting it?
Yeah, I'd be limiting it. You can, again, I would use Slade for that. It has a compressor and a very unique leveling section here. Again, there are a lot of different compressors. So we have those bus compressors here. We have the glue compressor on the Mixbuss. We have a tape, and then we have again a compressor. So there's quite some compression going on, but again, very, very slightly, very little different instances. We want to glue that together a little bit. It's a mastering compressor, so it can go below on very low ratios. It's made for very low ratios, so it just makes the needle move a little bit. There we go. Most of the times that's enough to get some kind of. I'm not after fattening it up. I'm just after gluing it together. That's what I want from a compressor. You can go with a fast attack and a fast release, more like of a limiter style setting. You can play with that as well, because it's ever so slightly as well. It depends also on the track what you want from it. There is a very unique section here which is called which is a leveling section. A knob I utilize a lot is dynamic perception.
It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, it sounds amazing, and it is really cool. It kind of it plays with a layered, saturated version of your track, and it does what an inflator would do as well. We had that before. It kind of lifts up the perceived volume without changing the output gain. So it's a kind of saturation thing going. I'm not exactly sure what it does. It's called dynamic perception, and it has some really cool thing which not many limiters have, which is called constant gain monitoring. So if you would put up the gain, you obviously you don't hear.
Fair.
You don't hear the fair amount of limiting, or when it's the point when you're over limiting, because you change the gain as well at the same time. So you have your ear, you simply trick your ear. So what this constant gain monitoring is doing, it moves it against your threshold, if you will. So it keeps the output level constant while limiting. So you can hear, you have always the same volume. Your ear doesn't get distracted from the change of volume. You can just purely concentrate on when it gets distorted. Let's give this a go with the constant monitoring on. There it starts to distort already, and you hear it, and you hear it only because it doesn't change the volume. A normal limiter, it gets louder, obviously.
Yeah.
So the constant monitoring You can really
You're actually
concentrate
hearing the effect
of the limiter. When do you lose dynamics? There are here some transients which bring some low punch and some detail back, but I don't necessarily like them at all. This constant monitoring feature and this dynamic perception is a winner. Let's see what I don't use this limiter because I use another one at the end, but it's a very, very cool device and a cool feature to simply know how much level you can push before it really gets distorted. You can take this to another limiter as well. It's a very valuable information to have. So this dynamic perception, let's turn it up just a little. It might again do a very little change, but it lifts it up. I would just bypass the whole section while after I dialed it in a bit. It pops out a slightly tiny bit,
Yeah,
and it
hard to articulate.
Yeah, it jumps. If you I mean, I know how it sounds and when it's missing, but it jumps at you a little bit more. So this would be something I would still put on the 2-bus where we go out with our buses. So this again, don't pay attention to that gain here. I did this just for the sake of demonstration, to lift up the volume because the track was produced in a ridiculously low volume. So this would then be with all of those plugins on. You would already be in a healthy area, which could be sent out for mastering. So we did some compression already, so you can save your mastering compression. Really, there's a lot of compression going on. So there's one on the kick and bass. I'm sure there are plenty of sounds used in there that already have compression on them. So the more compression it gets over-compressed at some time, which is not there are whole genres based on over-compression. EDM, electro house, everything is super pumpy. So it depends on what sound you're after again. This would then go into the stereo out. Right. The only thing I would then do is just
a little bit.
A little bit. If you, I'm here on the 3 dB settings, so tiny. Each thing plus 1.8. minus 2.1, minus 1.7, minus 2, and minus point 0.2, 0.4, 0.1, 0.2, 0.1, 0.2 almost. On the linear phase setting, I would just for the sake of demonstration show it on the 0 latency mode, because then you don't have this break between turning it on and off. Very little changes, huge effect on the whole track. Let's have a look. That's the master output. I was missing a little bit of low end. It was generally a little bit high, and high frequencies were a bit harsh. Took it out a little bit. If you listen loud to it, those little cuts make a lot of sense. A little bit of mud out, a little bit of those problem frequencies, as we said, a little bit of mud out.
So that final tonal shape.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it acts also like a glue, because it puts this curve on the whole thing, which glues everything together as well. And then the very, very last stage. There is something in Logic called an adaptive limiter, and it basically you can read up on that. It simulates, if I remember correctly, it simulates a preamp stage, and it adds perceived volume. Without, it's kind of adaptive. It's additive limit. Read up. It's adaptive limiting. It's like it simulates like a preamp would act. You can drive it hot, but it doesn't distort.
Yeah.
So that's what an adaptive limiter is doing. So you can in the Logic adaptive limiter, it bites. And you can really get that extra volume that you need, that you maybe can't get with a normal limiter. Check out an adaptive limiter; it's great. It doesn't do much here. It's really not doing much, this adaptive limiter. As you will see, I'm just adding 3 dBs to the signal, and it's not limiting, it's not doing at all, nothing at all. Check it out. It just jumps right at you. Let's hear that with the final limiter on, which would be the really, really very last stage of mastering, where the real limiting is going on. The adaptive limiter does, through that preamp saturation, through that adaptive limiting, it already evens out. It's a limiter in the end of the day. It's called adaptive limiter. So it kind of evens out the mix already. So you won't have to drive your second final limiter way hard, which is great as well, because sometimes it's over pumpy, over limited.
Yeah.
You're losing transients, and with all of this, you kind of you can get around getting a loud in your face mix, which has the RMS you need, the RMS levels, and for people who don't know RMS levels, it's like a measurement of perceived volume, how loud it feels. So let's get this together with the limiter, and then maybe you can see how this is affecting the limiter. Here you can see the gain reduction, how much it is reducing actually from the peaks. Check this out with limiter on now. Now, without the adaptive limiter.
So it's sort of pre-limiting.
It's pre-limiting, if you want, with a slightly different approach of like it's almost saturation again, and it has a slightly different character. It smooths it out before you destroy too much transients or limit away too much stuff. So try this out before you and if you check the levels, most of the tracks you will hear or play are around the -6 to -4 area. So we are even on the loud side without any distortion whatsoever. We could push both the adaptive limiter and the end limiter even harder to get it more up, but all the contribution goes to the adaptive limiter. You would not be able to push it that far only with the limiter. Check it out, and it's a really cool way to get that last punch loudness. And like this, I took a lot of tracks on the road like this, and they were really, really rocking. Also compared to, I'm not saying that mastering is completely, there are people out there who are doing a great job with mastering, and they definitely have their they have my appreciation, and I let my tracks master by other people just because of the objective. I've spent too much time on it, and it's always good to have somebody else.
This is like a live gig.
So it's good to do it. Also, I master tracks for other artists completely different as they would do it, or as they hear it. So it's always good to send it. It's not obsolete, but that's a good way if you want to check out, if you want to test your tune, if you have to balance something differently, or if you just want to take it out on the road and see if everything is right.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, dude. Well, I mean, I just can't believe some of the stuff we've been going through today. It's been so great to look at your process, the intelligence and sort of critical thought going into your work. There's a lot of real thought behind what you do. It's not too sort of preset-y or kind of autopilot, you know. I'm seeing lots of different techniques being applied across the board. You know, it's everything's got something different on it, you know.
There's definitely just experiment. Don't be shy, but listen to your ears, develop your ears, experiment, be crazy, and don't listen to yourself a little bit as well.
Well, I want to find out more about your sort of creative inspiration. So maybe we can have a bit of a chat.
Yeah, sure. Cool. Let's do that.
Okay,
Let's leave the studio. We've been here for quite a long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
See you guys in a bit.